Okay. Hi, Diane. How are you?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Nice to see you. Glad to have you with us. So, you're here to promote a new book. It's going to be a new book series, right? And you're using
Correct.
a different author name than you did previously. I just want to mention your name, D.A. MacQuin. And you published, how many books did you publish under D.A. MacQuin?
Three. I have a short story collection and a two-part sci-fi series.
And then the new book series is called Oh Great. And the first one, the one we're going to be talking about, is another vampire book, right?
That's right. Great, another vampire book.
How many books do you anticipate will be in this Oh Great series?
Hard to say. At least three, I believe. But I'm hoping to do a different genre for each one. So this first one is vampires, of course, and the second one is probably going to be, oh, great, another book about Jesus. And then after that, who knows?
Okay. I
Maybe, oh, great,
assume,
romance book. I don't know.
I'm sorry, say again.
Maybe, oh, great, another romance book.
I assume by the title these are going to be sort of satire comedies.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get across with the titles, that they are satire. And I'm just using each genre as a different lens to explore different ideas.
Well, there is a certain truth to Oh Great, another vampire book, because there are certainly a lot of them out there.
Yes, and that's definitely something I comment on in this book. I mention some of the other vampire properties and critique them, but in a playful and respectful way. I'm not here to make fun of vampire books or anything like that. In fact, I'm touting this as a vampire book for people who don't necessarily like vampire books.
I've had several of the other vampire people on the show,
You
and
have.
yeah,
Oh,
the one that comes to mind is oh, what's it? No, I just lost it. It came to mind and it left. But I'll think of it. I'll think of it. But people are taking basically the original Bram Stoker's vampire story and changing the characters. Some of them are female now. Some of them do not come from Eastern Europe. I mean, I guess just because it hasn't been done. What do you think? Why are there so many vampire books out there?
well, that's sort of a trend. I believe that there are some classic novels there that people have rewritten to include zombies in them. So, zombies, vampires, it's one of those tropes that people like to use and they never go away. But I'm glad that you mentioned Bram Stoker. His book was an epistolary, which is a form I actually really like. And my book, Oh Great, Another Vampire Book, it very much has an epistolary form to it. There's journal entries, there's entries from Twitter, uh, newspaper articles, and things like that. I like telling a story in different ways.
It's Cult of Dracula. That was the one I couldn't think
Oh,
of
Cult
there.
of Dracula? I haven't
Yeah.
heard of it. Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, if you go on Facebook, they're pretty big. You just type in Cult of Dracula and they'll come up. So
It's
I've had,
amazing how many people are still really into vampires.
yeah, it was, to be honest, it was never a story that really got me going. The one I liked,
Which is kind of funny. I'm not actually a huge fan of vampire literature, although I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
well,
and
there
I
was
liked
one.
Anne Rice's book.
Yeah. Well, one of my friends from the show is Catherine Lee Scott, who was one of the stars of the old Dark Shadows show from the 1960s and 70s. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a soap opera based around a vampire.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a good show. It's different. I mean, if you get the chance to see it, it's done like, an old style soap opera like General Hospital, but it's all of the occult. They have vampires, they have ghosts, they have voodoo, they have witches, but it's done seriously. They could have very easily done it very campy and kind of tongue in cheek, but they didn't. And they did it live back in the day before they started videotaping. And it's done like a stage play. Barnabas Collins is the vampire.
I haven't heard of it.
Okay, well, maybe check it out. Dark Shadows.
It kind of reminds me of Kolchak. That was a a show from the 70s. It was a detective who dealt with all kinds of different paranormal things in the real world.
Kojak?
No, it sounds like Kojak. It's Kolchak, Kolchaj
You know,
something.
okay, I don't know that one. Who was the star? Do you remember?
I cannot remember his name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's move on because we're digging a big hole here since neither of us can remember the name. There's one issue on your talking points that I want to bring up. It says how her book tackles issues of the day, the media, gun rights, racism, free speech, the environment. Is all of this going to be incorporated in the Oh Great series?
No, just in this book, and that was my whole impetus for writing it. I started writing it in 2018. I just sat down and was in a coffee shop, and I was thinking about how the cultural divide was starting to get amped up in the media and social media. So I thought, how would the media react if something crazy was real, like there actually are vampires? And also if there's a new god, because that's another factor of this book. It has three components, really. There's a new god in the world, vampires are real, and the media reacts. So it was a lot of fun to write because I got to take the point of view of different media outlets like Fox versus CNN, New York Times, Breitbart, even Teen Vogue. You know, it's fun to anticipate how these different media outlets would react to something like that happening.
Oh, that is funny. That is very funny.
Well,
Because
hopefully,
I'm,
it's supposed to be kind of funny.
yeah, because I'm trying to think, okay, so all of a sudden vampires are real, and on Fox they have to spin it to appeal to the Trump conservative base. And on CNBC and CNN they have to spin it to appeal to the liberal woke base. And yet I don't see any comparison that works for that. Yeah? I mean, how is it relevant to either side's political issues?
Well, I do write a fun scene that has Tucker Carlson in it. My main character, her name is Sarah Fielding. She's a freshman college student at Boston University. She studies journalism. And through a confluence of events involving her vampire boyfriend who tries to sire her, she becomes a new god. And that's because God is upset with the world and he lets her take over. And so while she has all these amazing metaphysical powers, godlike powers, she goes on Tucker Carlson tonight. And so he has to spin it so that she's an enemy because she could be weaponized for the left. So it's that sort of thing. But it was a lot of fun to write, and I will say that she does make him throw up on live TV.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, I do miss unbiased news reporting. I really do. It's so difficult to find just the straight news. I miss Walter Cronkite. I think when I was a kid growing up watching Walter Cronkite on CBS News, he just had a way about him that was very calm and relaxing, even though he would talk about some of the most horrific things, namely the Vietnam War that was going on at the time, how very unpopular it was and the cultural unrest in the United States. But he did it in a way that he presented the news and allowed you to formulate your own opinion. Now they hand you the opinion before you even have a chance to think about if you agree or not. And I don't like that. I think it insults people's intelligence.
It does. And it's one of the reasons why I think people are turning to long form podcasts, because people can really unwind and speak their minds. And it's not cut up into sound bites, and it's not dictated by the consumerist aspect. So yeah, that's definitely a big theme of the book, especially since my main character is a journalism student. So she definitely has these opinions about the media and how it can be irresponsible, especially with social media, in terms of algorithms and people having their own biases reinforced with the algorithms and things of that nature. So that's definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, there's a whole big agenda, sort of secret agenda back there that they're just starting to unpeel the layers of now. I think Zuckerberg's admission about the whole Hunter Biden thing and how that was, he was told to cover it up by the FBI. And we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg, I think. I think there's a lot more going on, especially
Sure.
when, and even something as innocuous as if you go on, say, Travelocity, and you look for a flight to somewhere, then all of a sudden you go on your Facebook page or you go on your YouTube page, you get all these flight stuff coming up in the ads. It's all connected, you know? And it's a little scary to me. There's no anonymity, at least in terms
There are
of,
certain ways to circumvent that, but you really have to make the effort. Like
yeah.
I've heard of certain VPNs that you can use so that they're not tracking your data. But, you know, a lot of people are too lazy to do that.
Well, or they, yeah, or they just aren't as technically savvy as they probably need to be.
True.
I mean, it's a whole new world. And especially people like 70 and older, I've noticed. Not all. I've had some people on who were in their late 80s who were dynamos on the computer. But they tend to be a little less tech savvy as they get older. Although I say that and then I think about this one guy who was 20 something who couldn't use his phone to save his life. And I was just amazed when he came on the show that I had to walk him through the whole setup because he just had no clue. And it was kind of charming in a way. It's like, wow, you're the first 20-year-old I've met that can't use an iPhone.
It's pretty quaint.
It's quaint, yeah.
But it's interesting that you mentioned Zuckerberg because I think that with social media being a somewhat new phenomenon, we're still learning. And unfortunately, some people have already suffered some of the ill effects. But since there's been new information out, you know, I'd like to think that moving forward, we could be, as a people, be more responsible with how our kids are using social media.
Oh, I agree with you.
My kids
And
are still little, so I'm glad that I've been able to learn some of these things.
yeah, I don't like that social media has now become weaponized in the sense that if a particular group doesn't agree with you, they just cancel you right off the platform. I think that's wrong. I
Yeah.
think that's terribly wrong.
Well, many of those aspects of what people call woke culture are things that I explore in my book, especially considering my main character is a freshman in college. And so she's of that demographic where she's sort of at the epicenter of what people think of as a quote unquote SJW, someone who would be a proponent of woke politics. However, you know, she is someone who has really good intentions. So there's that, you know, that fine line between is she authoritarian when she becomes a new god, or is she actually doing the right thing?
Well, I think on that note, we're going to have to wind this down. We just went right through our 15 minutes. Thank you so much for coming on the show. My guest is Diane Hunter. The book is called Oh Great, Another Vampire Book. Is the book available now? Is it out?
It is. All the books I've written are all on my website. That's dianehunterauthor.com. And there you'll find links to buy. And I want to say if anyone does buy on Amazon, it's very helpful to authors if you write a review.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you
the
so
show.
much.
It was nice meeting you, and best of luck with all your books. I hope they do well.
Thanks so much.